delight of your soul, though, is to do the will. It is. But you know the danger of your life is to refuse to do the will of God. So if you refuse to do the will of God, that is a danger for your life. So what you and I need to do is we need to hone in, find the will of God for us, hone in into the vein of God, so that will help us in our praying when we go to God. So that way, whenever we need something, God can just simply administer what we need. We need to be able to do that. Why? Because let me tell you this. God knows what's best for us. Do you believe that? Yeah. God is best at knowing what's best for us. And we have to believe that. We have to believe that God has our best interests at heart. He knows what's best for us. He knows when to administer the right thing. And when you're in the vein of God, it's real easy for God to administer to what you need. Yes. Right. Real easy. As long as you're in the vein. I like what Mueller said. You guys may have never heard of George Mueller. George Mueller has writing, says 25,000 prayers answered. That's what George Mueller wrote. And he said, we have to be careful. Mueller says, we have to be careful about the reluctancy of God. Thinking that somehow God is reluctant to answer our prayer. He said, but what we have to do is grab hold to the willingness of God. He said, if we grab hold of that, then we'll find that God is willing not only to answer our prayers, but to respond to them. Mueller says he'll do it every time, and I like that. I like what Mueller says, because he's saying that God will, if you grab hold to the willingness of God, finding the will of God, that it will come through and burst forth in your life. Mueller believes that. He gives the idea that like a pregnancy. So like a woman getting ready to have a baby. He said when the water breaks, what happens? The baby wants to come out every time. I've never heard where the water didn't break and the baby just wants to sit there. They said when the water breaks, they said the baby wants to burst forth. Mueller says if you grab hold to the willingness of God, it can burst forth your prayer life. All right. Mueller says what happens is your prayer life will then burst forth and come out like a baby trying to get back to the outside. Mueller says that same way. And my question to you is, don't you want your prayer life like that? Yes. Because don't you want to know that when you're praying in the will of God with the freedom of speech and the confidence to go before God, because you're a child of God, you approach His throne, you can hone your prayers into the vein of God so that God